What if a broken car on a lonely highway sparked a family's fight for justice that changed everything? Join us on an unforgettable journey of resilience and redemption in Willow Creek, where a single mother's courage and a lost brother's heart collide to uncover a buried truth. Feel the hope, the healing hit like, subscribe to the channel, and stay until the end for a story that will touch your soul. What happens when a luxury car stalls on a desolate Alabama highway, stranding a millionaire just minutes from the deal of his life only to be rescued by the last person he'd ever trust? On a blistering afternoon in Willow Creek, Alabama, where the sun scorched Highway 82 with unrelenting fury, the asphalt shimmered like a mirage, melting under a heat so oppressive it seemed to choke the very air. A silver Bentley Continental GT, a gleaming emblem of wealth, screeched to a halt, its hood erupting with white smoky, a mechanical betrayal that mocked the man inside. Ethan Caldwell, a 40-year-old CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles whitening as he slammed it with a force born of desperation, his face flushing crimson with a mix of rage and dread. His Patek Philippe watch, worth $90,000, ticked mercilessly 11:45 a.m., a mere 15 minutes until a billion-dollar investor meeting that could cement his father's legacy, a legacy Ethan had been groomed to uphold since he could walk. Sweat beaded on his brow, soaking through his tailored Italian suit, the heat slamming into him like a physical blow as he stepped out, the air so thick it felt like breathing fire. His polished veneer began to crack, revealing a man unaccustomed to losing control, his heart pounding with the stakes of a future he'd never dared to question. Just as Ethan's panic began to coil tighter, a low rumble broke the oppressive silence in an old Chevy pickup, its rusted frame rattling like a weary beast, pulled to a stop on the roadside. The engine sputtered into silence, and the door creaked open, revealing Lydia Harper, a 38-year-old black single mother and mechanic, her presence a stark contrast to the shimmering luxury of Ethan's world. Her oil-stained jeans and checkered shirt bore the marks of hard labor, her brown skin glistening under the sun's harsh glare, her hair tied back in a tight bun that spoke of practicality over vanity. She moved with a quiet confidence, her stride firm, her gaze unflinching as it met Ethan's, assessing him as if he were nothing more than a broken engine in need of repair. "Car trouble?" she asked, her voice steady, cutting through the haze of heat with a clarity that made Ethan flinch. His eyes narrowed, a flicker of disdain crossing his features, his lips curling slightly as he took in her appearance, a woman, a black woman, dressed in the garb of manual labor, daring to question him in his moment of vulnerability. "You sure you can handle this?" he snapped, his tone laced with skepticism, a quiet prejudice slipping through the cracks of his carefully constructed facade, revealing the man beneath the soutone who'd been taught to see the world through the lens of power and privilege, a lens that now blinded him to the strength standing right in front of him. Not a soul could have foreseen the twist that would unravel next, as the searing Alabama heat bore witness to a moment that would forever alter two lives on that forsaken highway. Lydia Harper, undeterred by Ethan Caldwell's biting skepticism, leaned into the Bentley's open hood, her hands moving with the precision of a seasoned mechanic, the clatter of tools against metal breaking the stifling silence. The smoke from the engine cleared slightly, revealing a busted cooling system, and within 30 seconds, she delivered her verdict. "You've got 10 minutes before this engine's toast." Her voice steady, a stark contrast to the chaos simmering in Ethan's mind. She retrieved a weathered toolbox from her Chevy pickup, her oil-stained gloves a testament to years of hard-earned skill, and began her work with a focus that bordered on indifference, her every move a quiet defiance of Ethan's dismissive glare. He watched, his initial irritation giving way to a reluctant fascination, his polished shoes shifting uneasily on the scorching asphalt as sweat trickled down his neck, soaking his silk shirt. The clock ticked mercilessly in his Hediac second, a step closer to losing the meeting that could define his legacy yet. His eyes couldn't pull away from her hands, rough and capable, a stark reminder of a world he'd never known. Then, as Lydia tightened a clamp with a deft twist, a glint of light caught Ethan's eye, a silver ring adorned with a deep blue sapphire on her finger, its brilliance cutting through the haze like a beacon from the past. His breath caught, a jolt of recognition surging through him, pulling him back to a memory buried deep beneath years of privilege and power. It was the same ring he'd given to a little girl at the New Hope orphanage in Willow Creek 2 decades ago. A sacred promise whispered under an oak tree. "I'll come back." A vow he'd forgotten as his father, Victor Caldwell, molded him into the heir of an empire. His heart pounded, a mix of guilt and disbelief washing over him, his arrogant facade crumbling as he stared at Lydia, now a stranger who held a piece of his lost childhood. The sapphire seemed to pulse with accusation, its color mirroring the stormy depths of his forgotten past, and for a moment, he stood frozen. The heat forgotten, the meeting irrelevant, as emotions he'd long suppressed clawed their way to the surface. Lydia, unaware of the storm brewing in Ethan's mind, wiped her hands on a rag, her expression unreadable as she stepped back, her task complete for now. "It'll hold for an hour, get it to a shop," she said flatly, her voice a calm anchor in the chaos of his thoughts, offering a brief respite from the turmoil threatening to overwhelm him. Yet, as she turned toward her truck, Ethan's gaze lingered on the ring, his mind racing to connect the dots. Her steady hands, her unyielding presence, the way she'd met his prejudice with quiet strength. Could this be the girl he'd abandoned? The question gnawed at him, a painful echo of a promise unkept, and his chest tightened with a longing he couldn't name. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat, his usual command replaced by a vulnerability he hadn't felt since childhood. The moment hung heavy, a pause filled with unspoken questions, before a new wave of tension surged, as he realized this wasn't just a car repair. It was the big reckoning he couldn't escape. The sapphire ring, a silent witness to their shared history, promised more revelations to come, hooking him and any viewer into the unfolding drama with an irresistible pull. But the tragedy had only just begun to unfold, its roots stretching deep into the shadows of a past that neither Lydia Harper nor Ethan Caldwell could yet fully grasp on that sun-scorched Alabama highway. As Lydia turned away from the repaired Bentley, her sapphire-ringed hand brushing against the truck's worn door, Ethan stood rooted, his mind a whirlwind of fragmented memories stirred by that single, accusing glint. The ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was a key to a door he'd locked shut long ago, a door leading back to the New Hope orphanage in Willow Creek, where a young boy had once carved wooden birds with a girl whose name he'd forgotten. His chest tightened with a pang of guilt, the weight of that broken promise, "I'll come back," crashing over him like a wave, threatening to drown the polished image he'd built under his father's iron rule. Meanwhile, Lydia drove off, her mind drifting to a different pain, her hands gripping the steering wheel as if it could anchor her to the present, away from the ghosts of a childhood torn apart by forces beyond her control. Lydia's story was one etched in struggle, a tapestry of loss woven through the humid air of Willow Creek. At 12, she'd watched helplessly as her mother, Clara Harper, disappeared after their family's land of fertile plot along the Black Warrior River was seized by Victor Caldwell, Ethan's father, under a cloud of suspicious legal maneuvers. The New Hope orphanage had been her refuge, a place where she'd met a shy, blonde-haired boy who'd given her the sapphire ring as a vow of friendship, a vow shattered when the orphanage's funding was abruptly cut, its doors closed, and its children scattered like leaves in a storm. Lydia had been thrust into a foster home at 13, where she scrubbed floors and washed dishes for a family that saw her as little more than free labor, her spirit hardening with every unthanked task. At 15, she fled, finding solace with her Uncle Marcus, a grizzled mechanic whose calloused hands taught her to wield a wrench with the same defiance she'd learned to carry in her heart. Now, at 38, a single mother to her 14-year-old daughter Ava, Lydia ran Harper Auto Works. Her shop a testament to her resilience, her days filled with the hum of engines and the quiet hope of providing a better life. Yet the pain of her mother's absence lingered, a silent ache that the ring on her finger kept alive. Ethan's past, by contrast, was a gilded cage, its bars forged by Victor Caldwell's unyielding ambition. Raised in a sprawling mansion north of Birmingham, he'd been sent to Harvard not out of passion but as a pawn in his father's chess game, every step his business degree, his engagement to Samantha Blake, daughter of a retail mogul, carefully orchestrated to expand the Caldwell empire. The boy who'd once carved wood with an orphan girl had been erased, replaced by a man who commanded boardrooms with a steely gaze, his emotions buried beneath tailored suits and calculated smiles. Yet, as he stood on that highway, the sapphire ring haunting his vision, a crack formed in that facade, a whisper of doubt seeping through. Had Victor's ruthlessness extended beyond business deals to erase a piece of his own son's humanity? The question gnawed at him, a quiet storm brewing beneath his calm exterior, offering a moment of introspection, a brief respite from the chaos before. A new wave of emotion surged. The realization that Lydia might be that girl, that their lives were tangled in a web spun by his father, ignited a flicker of rage and sorrow, a high trow that promised more revelations, hooking viewers with the tantalizing prospect of a past about to collide with the present in ways neither could yet imagine. Not a soul could have predicted the seismic shift about to rock their worlds, as the echoes of a shared past began to reverberate through the humid air of Willow Creek, Alabama, pulling Lydia Harper and Ethan Caldwell into a confrontation that would redefine their very identities. The day after their highway encounter, Ethan returned to Harper Auto Works, his polished demeanor replaced by a nervous energy that betrayed the turmoil brewing beneath his tailored exterior. In his trembling hand, he clutched a small wooden bird carving, its wings etched with the faded initials L.E., a relic from their days at the New Hope Orphanage 2 decades prior. The shop's air hung heavy with the scent of motor oil and anticipation as he approached Lydia, his voice cracking with a vulnerability he'd never allowed to surface before. "You taught me to carve this," he said, his eyes searching hers for a flicker of recognition. Lydia froze, her breath catching as memories of a shy boy under an oak tree flooded back, the sapphire ring on her finger suddenly feeling like a burning brand, its weight a silent accusation of promises unkept. Her heart pounded with a mix of shock and guarded hope, the initial high trow of this reunion threatening to overwhelm her stoic facade. Lydia's gaze hardened as she processed his words, her mind racing to connect the dots between this man in a designer suit and the child she'd once befriended. She stepped behind the counter, retrieving a weathered file from a drawer, her hands steady despite the storm. Within inside were a faded map of her family's lost land along the Black Warrior River, a forged death certificate for her mother, Clara Harper, and a letter penned 8 years ago in Clara's unmistakable hand. "I didn't abandon you. They forced me to disappear." Her voice trembled as she laid the evidence before Ethan, each page a dagger of pain and rage. "Your father took everything, our land, my mother, our history," she said, her eyes blazing with a fire that demanded justice. Ethan's world tilted. The realization that Victor Caldwell had orchestrated Clara's disappearance to claim the land's underground water reserve, a billion-dollar secret crashing over him like a tidal wave. His face paled, guilt and disbelief warring within him as he whispered, "We were friends and more, I think we're siblings." The revelation, confirmed by a faint memory of orphanage records and the matching ring, struck like thunder, a new cow trow that left them both reeling, their shared bloodline, a bond forged in betrayal. For a moment, silence enveloped the shop, a brief engie offering a chance to breathe amid the chaos. As Lydia and Ethan stared at each other, the wooden bird and sapphire ring bridging a gap of 20 years. Lydia's shoulders slumped, her anger giving way to a sorrowful acceptance. "I waited for you, but you never came," she murmured, her voice thick with the weight of abandonment, a pain that mirrored Ethan's growing shame. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands, the polished CEO unraveling as he grappled with the truth his father had not only erased Clara, but had severed his own son's ties to a sister he'd forgotten. The air thickened with unresolved tension, a promise of more to come. As Ethan lifted his gaze, determination flickering in his eyes. "I'll help you uncover this," he vowed, his voice steadying with resolve. This heart-wrenching journey from despair to defiance ignites a spark of hope that resonates deep within. If this tale has touched your soul, let your voice be heard, like and comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to embrace the next chapters of courage, redemption, and unbreakable bonds that await. Yet the storm of revelations was far from over, as Lydia Harper and Ethan Caldwell, newly bound by blood and betrayal, stood on the precipice of a battle that would either reclaim their family's legacy or shatter it forever in the heart of Willow Creek, Alabama. The air inside Harper Auto Works buzzed with a quiet intensity, the scent of motor oil mingling with the weight of shared purpose, as the siblings sat around a cluttered workbench, their faces illuminated by the dim glow of a single overhead bulb. Uncle Marcus, a weathered man of 65 with hands as steady as his resolve, joined them, his presence a grounding force. Amid the Kayoshi's graying beard and deep-set eyes bore the scars of years spent fighting for justice in a town that often turned a blind eye to its own wounds. The wooden bird carving and sapphire ring lay between them, silent symbols of a past they were determined to reclaim, while a pile of documents, land deeds, forged certificates, and Clara's letters sprawled across the table, each page a piece of the puzzle Victor Caldwell had tried to bury. Lydia's fingers traced the edges of her mother's handwriting, her heart swelling with a fierce determination, the initial high trow of their unified resolve igniting a fire that had smoldered for decades. The plan was audacious, born of desperation and a shared hunger for truth. They would confront Victor at the Willow Creek Development Project's groundbreaking ceremony, a glitzy event set for the following evening, where he'd unveil his latest billion-dollar venture on the very land he'd stolen from the Harpers. Marcus leaned forward, his voice a low rumble as he pointed to the faded map. "This ceremony's his victory lap, but we'll turn it into his downfall," he said, his words laced with a steely conviction that steadied Lydia's trembling hands. Ethan, still reeling from the revelation of his sister, felt the weight of his privilege for the first time, his tailored jacket now discarded, his sleeves rolled up as he pored over the documents, his mind racing with the implications. If Victor had erased Clara to secure the land's water reserves, what else had he hidden? His guilt morphed into a quiet resolve, a brief sigh in the emotional storm as he met Lydia's gaze. "I've been blind, but I see now," he said softly, his voice thick with the dawning realization of the empire he'd inherited, an empire built on lies that had torn his family apart. The siblings shared a look of unspoken understanding, their bond deepening in the face of a common enemy, the air crackling with the promise of justice. But the stakes grew higher as they finalized their strategy, a new chow trow surging through the room like a current. Lydia pulled out a hidden Asia letter from Clara, dated just a month prior, confirming she was alive and hidden in a small town nearby, a revelation that sent a jolt of hope through them all. "She'll be there," Lydia whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and anticipation, her eyes glistening as she imagined her mother walking onto that stage, a living testament to Victor's crimes. Marcus rigged a small recording device, his hands deft despite his age, ensuring they'd capture Victor's reaction to Clara's return, while Ethan used his corporate access to secure fake IDs for the event. His jaw set with a determination that mirrored Lydia's own. They'd infiltrate the ceremony, play the recording, and expose the truth to the world. The plan was set, but the tension hung heavy, each of them knowing the risks. Victor's power ran deep, his influence a web that could ensnare them all. As they gathered their evidence, the sapphire ring caught the light, a beacon of their shared past, now a rallying cry for the fight ahead, leaving viewers on edge, hearts racing, eager to witness the moment when a family's resilience would face the might of a corrupt empire. The moment of reckoning had finally arrived, as the carefully laid plans of Lydia Harper and Ethan Caldwell set the stage for a showdown that would shake the foundations of Willow Creek, Alabama, under the glittering facade of the development project's groundbreaking ceremony. The evening air buzzed with anticipation outside the Grand Pavilion, where spotlights cast a golden glow on the Caldwell Enterprises logo, a towering emblem of Victor Caldwell's dominance, while the crowd, local dignitaries, investors, and media mingled in their finest attire, unaware of the storm about to break. Lydia, Ethan, and Uncle Marcus slipped through the entrance with their fake IDs, their hearts pounding in unison, each step a march toward justice as they navigated the sea of tuxedos and evening gowns. Lydia's hands trembled slightly, clutching the small recording device Marcus had rigged, her simple black dress a stark contrast to the opulence around her. Yet her eyes burned with a resolve that could rival any spotlight. Ethan, beside her, felt the weight of his decision pressing down, his jaw tight as he spotted his fiancée, Samantha Blake, in the front row, her presence a reminder of the life he was about to renounce. The initial high trow of their infiltration, setting a pulse-racing tone that gripped every onlooker. Backstage, the siblings moved with precision, their plan unfolding like a well-oiled machine, the tension palpable as Victor took the stage, his silver hair gleaming under the lights, his voice booming with pride. "Tonight, We build the future of Willow Creek. His words, a hollow promise to those who knew the truth. Lydia, hidden in the shadows, pressed play on the recording device, and Victor's own voice filled the pavilion, a damning confession captured hours earlier in a heated confrontation. Do you think emotion will win against a corporation? The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling through the audience like wildfire, as cameras swiveled to capture the unfolding drama, a brief knee in the chaos, allowing the weight of Victor's words to sink in. Then Clara Harper stepped onto the stage, her gray hair framing a face etched with resilience, her presence a living rebuke to the forged death certificate that had erased her for 20 years. The audience fell silent, the air electric with shock, as she pointed a trembling finger at Victor. You stole my life, my family, my land. Her voice a raw, unyielding cry that shattered the illusion of Victor's empire, a new Caltrao that sent chills down every spine. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady but resonant with emotion. I'm not a Caldwell, I'm Ethan Harper. And I stand with my family. His declaration a thunderclap that reverberated through the pavilion, revealing his and Lydia's sibling bond to a stunned crowd, Samantha's gasp echoing from the front row as the truth of his identity unraveled the life she'd known. Victor's face twisted in fury, his empire crumbling in real time. But before he could react, FBI agents stormed the stage, their badges flashing under the spotlights, arresting him for forgery, extortion, and illegal detention, the charges a culmination of the evidence Lydia and Ethan had gathered. The crowd erupted, cameras flashing like a storm, as Victor was led away in handcuffs, his legacy reduced to a footnote in a scandal that would dominate headlines for weeks. Lydia and Ethan stood beside Clara, their hands clasped, the sapphire ring on Lydia's finger catching the light, a symbol of their unbroken bond now shining in triumph. Tears streamed down Clara's face as she embraced her children. The reunion, a beacon of hope amidst the wreckage of Victor's lies, leaving viewers breathless, hearts swelling with the power of justice, eager for the aftermath of a family reborn from the ashes of betrayal. As the dust settled on the dramatic upheaval at the Willow Creek ceremony, the echoes of justice reverberated through the town, setting the stage for a profound transformation that would heal old wounds and forge new beginnings for the Harper family. The morning after Victor Caldwell's arrest, the once glimmering site of the Willow Creek Development Project stood eerily silent, its banners torn down, the LED screens dark, a stark reminder of the empire that had crumbled under the weight of its own deceit. The land along the Black Warrior River, stolen from the Harpers 2 decades prior, was now returned to its rightful owners through a swift legal ruling. The underground water reserve, a billion-dollar prize, Victor had coveted protected under a new conservation mandate. Clara's sanctuary, named in honor of Lydia's mother, emerged from the ashes of Victor's greed, a sprawling community preserve where the river's gentle flow whispered promises of renewal, its banks lined with wildflowers that seemed to bloom in defiance of the past. Lydia, Ethan, and Clara stood at the edge of the sanctuary, their hands clasped, the sapphire ring on Lydia's finger catching the sunlight, a symbol of their reunion now glowing with the warmth of a family restored, the initial high trow of their victory filling the air with a quiet triumph that tugged at every heart. The sanctuary wasn't just a piece of land, it was a testament to resilience, a place where Willow Creek's residents could gather, heal, and rebuild. Its creation, a direct result of the evidence Lydia and Ethan had unearthed, now validated by the courts. Harper Auto Works, once a small garage on the town's edge, transformed into the Monroe Institute for Youth Futures, a vocational school where Lydia taught single mothers and at-risk youth the skills she'd honed over years of struggle. Her classroom buzzed with the hum of engines and the laughter of students, her oil-stained hands guiding a young girl through the intricacies of a carburetor, her voice steady. "You've got this, just like I did," she said, her words a lifeline to those who saw in her a mirror of their own potential. Ava, Lydia's 14-year-old daughter, thrived in this new chapter, her sketchbook filled with drawings of the sanctuary's oak trees, her dreams of becoming an artist nurtured by the stability her mother had fought so hard to provide. Clara, now 62, her legal status restored, sat on a bench overlooking the river, her gray hair catching the breeze as she watched Ava sketch, her heart swelling with a peace she hadn't known in decades, a gentle ghee in the emotional journey, a moment of serenity that allowed the family to breathe, their scars illuminated by the light of a new dawn. Yet, as the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues across the sanctuary, a new trowel of emotions surged, weaving threads of hope into the fabric of their shared future. Ethan, now fully embracing his identity as Ethan Harper, stood beside Lydia, his corporate suits traded for a simple flannel shirt, his hands dirt-stained from planting trees in Clara's sanctuary, a physical act of atonement for the empire he'd once represented. He'd walked away from Caldwell Enterprises entirely. His engagement to Samantha Blake dissolved in the wake of the ceremony's revelations. His choice to stand with his family, a defining moment that had set him free. "I thought success was power," he admitted to Lydia, his voice soft as they watched the river's current. "But it's this being here. With you, with Ava, with Mom," Clara overheard, her eyes glistening with tears as she joined them, her arms wrapping around her children in an embrace that spoke of years lost and love reclaimed. The weight of her 20-year absence dissolving in the warmth of their shared laughter. The sanctuary's first community event, a picnic under the oak trees, unfolded around them, with families from Willow Creek gathering to celebrate the land's return, their voices mingling with the rustle of leaves, a chorus of healing that echoed far beyond the river's banks. Uncle Marcus, ever the quiet protector, stood at the edge of the gathering, his weathered face softening into a rare smile as he watched Ava run through the grass, her laughter a melody that seemed to mend the cracks in his own heart, his role in their victory a silent badge of honor. This moment of unity, a family reborn from the ashes of betrayal, painted a picture of hope that transcended the pain of the past, a legacy that would ripple through Willow Creek for generations. The sapphire ring, once a symbol of a broken promise, now shone as a beacon of redemption, its blue depths reflecting the sky above, a sky that held the promise of brighter days. As the picnic continued, children played near the river, their laughter mingling with the sound of water, while Lydia, Ethan, and Clara sat together, their hands linked, their hearts aligned in a shared purpose to nurture this sanctuary, to honor their mother's name, and to ensure that no family would ever suffer as they had. The scene was a powerful reminder of the strength found in unity, a testament to the idea that even the deepest wounds could heal when love and justice prevailed, leaving viewers with a lump in their throats, their hearts full, and their minds eager for the final chapter of this remarkable journey. As the echoes of the picnic faded into the twilight of Willow Creek, a profound sense of closure enveloped the Harper family, their journey of resilience and redemption now poised to leave an indelible mark on the town and beyond. 6 months had passed since Victor Caldwell's arrest, and the transformation of Clara's sanctuary into a thriving community hub had become a beacon of hope, its rolling green hills dotted with children's laughter and the gentle hum of community workshops, a stark contrast to the greed that once defined the land along the Black Warrior River. Harper Auto Works, now reimagined as the Monroe Institute for Youth Futures, stood as a cornerstone of this renewal, its walls echoing with the clatter of tools and the dreams of students, many of whom were single mothers and at-risk youth, finding their footing under Lydia Harper's patient guidance. Lydia, now 38, moved through the institute with a quiet authority, her oil-stained hands teaching a young woman the art of engine repair, her voice a steady anchor. "Strength isn't in the toolsets in the patience to fix what's broken," she said, her words carrying the weight of her own struggles, igniting an initial high trough of inspiration that resonated with every listener, a testament to the power of perseverance that had brought her family back together. Ethan Harper, once the polished heir to the Caldwell Empire, had shed that skin entirely, embracing his true identity at 40 with a humility that softened his features. His days were now spent alongside Lydia at the Institute, his hands callous from planting trees in Clara's sanctuary, a physical penance for the privilege he'd once taken for granted. He'd launched a shelter for orphan children in Willow Creek, a project born from the guilt of his forgotten promise to Lydia, its doors opening to kids who reminded him of the boy he'd been at New Hope Orphanage. "I thought success was power," he reflected one evening as he watched the sunset over the river with Lydia, his voice tinged with a newfound wisdom. "But it's this building something real with you, with Mom, with Ava." This moment of introspection offered a gentle knee, a pause to absorb the depth of his transformation, his blue eyes reflecting the same sky that had witnessed their reunion, a sky now free of the shadows cast by Victor's lies. Clara, at 62, found her own peace in this new chapter. Her legal battles won, her gray hair framing a face that glowed with the joy of reclaiming her life. Her days spent tending flower beds in the sanctuary, each bloom a silent tribute to the resilience that had carried her through 20 years of exile. As the seasons turned, a new chow-chow of emotions swelled, weaving a legacy that promised to endure. The Monroe Institute held its first graduation ceremony, a celebration under the sanctuary's ancient oak trees, where Ava, now 14, stood proud with her sketches of the river, her artistic talents blossoming under the stability her family had fought to secure. Lydia pinned a certificate on a young mother's chest, tears in her eyes as she whispered, "You've earned this." The moment a mirror of her own triumph, her sapphire ring glinting as a symbol of the unbreakable bond that had guided them home. Ethan addressed the crowd, his voice steady. "This isn't just a school, it's a promise that no child will be forgotten, no family erased." His words, a vow that echoed Clara's own as she joined him, her arms around her children. The family's unity, a powerful crescendo that drew gasps and smiles from the gathered community. Uncle Marcus, ever the silent sentinel, watched from the sidelines, his rare smile widening as he saw Ava present a sketch to a younger orphan, a gesture that bridged their past and future, his weathered hands trembling with pride. The sanctuary buzzed with life workshops taught skills, gardens fed families, and a memorial plaque honoring Clara's name stood as a reminder of the truth that had set them free. Its inscription, a call to future generations to protect what was hard-won. This legacy of truth, built on the ashes of betrayal, offered a lesson that transcended Willow Creek's borders: the power of resilience to reclaim what was lost, the strength of family to heal the deepest wounds, and the courage to confront injustice with love. The sapphire ring, once a token of a broken vow, now shone as a beacon of redemption, its blue depths mirroring the river that flowed through the sanctuary, a river that carried their story forward. As the ceremony ended, Lydia, Ethan, and Clara sat together on the bench where Clara had once watched Ava sketch, their hands linked, their laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves, a sound that promised brighter days. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Clara's sanctuary, I, Lydia Harper, stood with my family, feeling the weight of our journey settle into a quiet strength that I never thought possible. For years, I carried the pain of my mother's disappearance, the loss of our land, and the betrayal that tore us apart. But standing here with Ethan, Ava, and Mom, I realized that our fight wasn't just about reclaiming what was stolen. It was about rewriting our story with the ink of resilience, love, and unyielding truth. From the moment I fixed Ethan's car on that scorching highway, unaware that the sapphire ring on my finger would lead us back to each other, to the day we stood together at the Willow Creek ceremony, exposing Victor's lies, every step taught me that justice isn't just a verdict, it's the courage to face the past, to heal as a family, and to build a future where no one is forgotten. Ethan, once a stranger bound by privilege, became my brother in every sense, his choice to stand with us a testament to the power of redemption, proving that even the deepest divides can be bridged with honesty and heart. This journey showed yous and hopefully you that the true value of life lies not in wealth or power, but in the bonds we forge, the truths we uncover, and the legacy we leave behind. For me, Clara's Sanctuary and the Monroe Institute aren't just places, they're promises etched into the soil of Willow Creek, promises that every child, every family, deserves a chance to rise above their struggles, just as we did. The lesson here is timeless. Resilience can reclaim what was lost. Love can heal what was broken. And truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always find its way to the light. Our story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope endures. And together, we can turn pain into purpose, betrayal into beauty, and loss into a legacy that lifts us all. If this tale of courage, redemption, and family has stirred your heart, let us know your thoughts. Hit that like button, share your reflections in the comments, and subscribe to this channel to join us for more stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us of the unbreakable strength within us all. There are countless journeys waiting to unfold, each one more captivating than the last, and we'd love for you to be part of them.